Today's motions is this house radically tax the rich and give all citizens a basic income without a requirement to work. If so, I would like to welcome you on the debates of high school Same's Debate Club. And since I would like to start debates by calling the Prime Minister and telling that you will have 5 minutes to explain your position in these debates.
Okay, thanks. So the motion is that this house would radically tax the rich and give all citizens a basic income without a requirement to work. And this statement is essentially relates to socialism and how around the world there are large disproportions of wealth within social classes. And essentially, it is a problem around the world, and this is a proposed solution to this problem. And essentially, socialism and in general, socialist or I guess even communist ideas have never really been tried before, as social equality is a big issue around the world in terms of wealth. For example, there are different countries with large disproportions of wealth. For example, the US, the top 1% owns 38.5% of the country's wealth, which is a huge disproportion because essentially that means that more than a third of the entire country's wealth is held within the grasp of a really small margin of individuals. And devoting all of this extra money to social programs and increasing the basic income would essentially, for example, help young people and people who have troubles to start their life. It would help them in the beginning, for example, to get their first job and stuff like that. And social programs in general develop the economy itself as a whole because essentially it gives more money for the people to spend, and this essentially and the money kind of returns back to the government as the money is spent. Wealthy people also have also a large amount of influence over the government, which should not really be the case, as the government should serve all of their citizens instead of just a few. And essentially, everybody should be equal in those terms, while in countries with large disproportions, this is just not the case because wealthy people usually are usually viewed as more important by the government and have more political influence. That's it for my speech. Thank you.
Thank you. And to hear opposition case in these debates, I would like to call up the leader of opposition. You will have 5 minutes as well.
Okay, so I believe that the community must work as a whole for themselves, not getting dependent on somebody else's income they're getting in the form of taxes from the government. So to keep to keep the balance of the economy, everybody in the community must work and they must be independent so that they can maintain the balance. And if they will earn for themselves, be independent, they can also have some money for their survival. They can save more, and if the money just comes from the government, they're just gonna take it and just waste it every single time they get. They will not think about their future. They will not think about their survival more. And so taxing the rich and helping the citizens by providing some programs, obviously it will help many people who doesn't have job, but will also encourage the daily work goers who go to works. They will encourage them to sit at home and eat for free, as rich people are already paying for them in the form of taxes. So what happens so as an example, what will happen if a rich person who is giving taxes to the government stop giving taxes, and the citizen will stop receiving the money from the government. And if the citizen if the citizen won't have enough for survival, he will obviously start searching for a job for the survival, and he won't get because he has gotten so, you can say, he has got so into the money that he's got dependent on the government that he doesn't have to worry. But there is a stage when everything starts from the beginning, everything resets. And it can also happen that the rich people will, most of the time, they will start thinking of themselves, because they won't just pay to the government for the citizens, and they won't think about themselves. So they can stop putting their effort to they can stop putting effort, because their money is just going to the citizens. And at some point, the rich people can start working less and start paying less taxes to the government, so that they can save more money for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. And to review their case, I would like to call the leader of the government.
Hello everyone. So, as my teammate said, and an extension to what he said, radically tax the rich and gives also a basic income is pretty much a thing from economical point of Karl Marx manifesto. And the Karl Marx manifesto was never actually really tried in the modern society. It always was transformed into some kind of totalitarianism, and that was really bad in our what we can see in our history. And so that's our point, that this was actually never really tried in the rules that he showed it, and it actually might work. Also, young adults that will get basic income would have a lot of more opportunities to start their own life. As we all know, young adults have really hard time to start their own life when they're living with their parents. They don't have non-income, and they are pretty much relied on either going to university or getting a job, and then slowly and very slowly gaining money by providing him with basic income, or maybe not even with income, but providing him with basic things to live with, like maybe an apartment or maybe some kind of car or some kind of free university and free supplies. That would really help them to develop their own adulthood, and that would really push them to work by themselves. Also, in USA, as we all know, like 37% of a lot of money that um, society produces is owned by 1% of people, and that's pretty much a big disproportion in people. A lot of wealthy people that they don't use their money properly as they could use it. For example, they don't donate it to the public society and don't really use it in the way that could benefit other people. What I mean by that is that if we radically tax the rich, it would create a lot of new money for the infrastructure and for schools, for roads, etc. And because they don't use that money and they could use it, why shouldn't we take the money from them? That would actually benefit a lot of people that are not making that much money for various of reasons. Also, companies that make a lot of money because of rich people, because they create these companies, have really big influence on the on the government. And by taxing these companies and by reducing the actual money that they produce, it would reduce the influence that they have on the government. So, and that would be really good, because as we all know, governments shouldn't be on one side; it shouldn't be manipulated. And from what we can see right now in USA, medical system is very dependent on privacy. There's Obamacare, but it doesn't really work in the way because of Donald Trump, because of his the government that he was working on. But as we can see, private medical assistance actually created this market that um, that pretty much government wouldn't cannot make their own public hospitals, and they care, because these private companies create so much money that they have influence in the government, so they cannot stop it, and this is a pretty big problem. Um, and also, in so what opposition said, um, uh, um, Gurlal was talking about very very big um, income, basic income to the people. And I think what we are talking about here is basic income. It's not like people would automatically start to not work and become lazy, and only very wealthy people would work for their money. It won't really happen, because what we are talking is basic income. This income would actually push these people. It would take money from the rich, but not all their money, of course. It would take some part of their money and give it and spread it around the society to poor people, so they can have like a boost to become also wealthier, and that could actually um, result in way welfare society as whole. Of course, giving a lot of people is very bad. Giving a lot of money to a lot of people is very huge amounts is very bad. But we are not talking about that. We want to give a lot of money to just basic people so they are lazy and they don't have to work. Of course, that wouldn't happen. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And to the last constructive speech in this debate, I would like to call the deputy of the opposition leader.
Hello. So basically, the community should work together to provide a stable economy so that if one half of the population worked, the other half would not work. Everyone will stop working because they think the others are working. The economy would collapse if they didn't work as a whole. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And to sum up this debate, I would like to call the government whip.
Okay, so to summarize all of what we said before, we actually think it's a really good benefit for the whole society if we tax the rich and give it to give basic income to citizens. It would boost all of the people, and they would make way more money because of this boost. It would really help young people to start their life. And what we think about communism, about socialism, especially about socialism, is that it's very hardly associated with a lot of totalitarianism, which is of course really bad. But actually, what Karl Marx wrote in his manifesto was never tried economically, and that's a pretty big mistake. What we can see from the history, and we have a example of USA and the capitalistic view of politics and of society and socialism, when a lot of companies have very big influence on government, and that's really bad problem because it can create some kind of problems like medical stuff and medical insurance. That's really pretty much unsolvable right now without any revolution. And also rich people, they use their money pretty much for their recreation and they don't really think about society. Of course they donate it a lot of times to the charities, but what we need to do is we need to benefit ourselves. We need to benefit our country to work for us. Because of that, it would create a way better economical situation in our country. It would create more educated people, and it would create a better place to live. We would, of course, providing people with big amounts of money is not good, but basic boost is really good, in my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And to the last debate, to the last speech in this debate, I would like to call a whip speaker from the opposition side.
So I think that's pretty much it. I have nothing to say anything else.
Thank you all for this debate. And we will have 15 minutes to adjudicate this. Please come back. I'll write you in announcement chat.
Marcus is here.
Okay, let's mute.
Government is here, opposition is here, great. Okay, guys, first of all, I would like to say that I really like this debate because it seems to me that you are making progress. And also, in this debate, government wins, but it doesn't mean that opposition did bad work. It means that in this debate, it looks like that some side was really winning. What's wrong maybe with the case of the government, and what could be better? It's like my personal recommendation you can just use, and maybe it will come in handy for you. You do really good explanation of what's going on with this proportion. That also you give us examples of the real world, and it works. But basically, I can get why it's bad. Okay, maybe in real world, when you talk to me and say this proportion is bad and explain me your point of view, I really understand it. But in case of debates, I need those explanations which are maybe obvious in real life, but debates really need it because in case you only talk that it's bad, I have to do a lot of assumptions like why it's bad, what's the harms, and actually what can do your case stronger and your arguments in itself, that you analyze why it's bad and how people come up with it, like what's going on in the real world and how rich come up with it and how really poor people come up with it. And when you analyze that it's bad for both of those sides and we have to do something with it, your case, like the new law you do when you tax rich people, it's really justified, because when you do it for no reason, it's not really clear. And in this case, opposition wins. Even if you analyze the whole history of socialism and do a citation of Marx Manifest, it don't really works until you explain what's the reason you should really do this law and why it has to be in your country. And actually, you did well with interaction, because it was one point why opposition side is second in this game, because when you do interaction and analyze your point of view, analyze why your case winning in the terms that opposition says, it works good for you. And I would like to recommend you to do it in the beginning of your speech, because when you as opposition or as government, you talk after someone, maybe you can connect those words that was said before you started, just to make a comparison with it. And actually, talking about opposition case, you tried to explain the importance of independence of work and the future. And actually, it works really well for status future when we talk about long-term consequences and something like that. You explain the probability of it, but actually you do a little mistake when you like think that it's your only argument, and it's actually not so strong, because it's a case of probabilities. And when we analyze debates, we consider two things, the same as in utilitarianism, when how many people are involved and what's the probability of it. And your case is strongly a case of probabilities, because I don't know, it can happen, it cannot happen, and in case it's not happen, it's really better for you, because you simply fail with it. And actually, when you talk about independence of work, you have to explain why it's important for me to be independent, why I as a person can feel myself better. But what is more, you could do it in another way. In this topic, maybe I'll send you an example of the round of it from some tournament. But you could as well talk about fairness. Like, is it morally well to tax people who earn those money, who tried, who were in for making for a living, and since they're only rich, since they got those money, since they can do something in their life, we tax them, and it's unfortunately not so fair for us. And you as a position can talk about it. What is more, have to react from the side of government when opposition tells it. You can just say that, okay, maybe we understand that we tax those people and they really come up with harm, but you as a government say that we can just let these people suffer, but we will get a huge amount of people who suffered because of this disproportion you said. And it's also, you do at the same time interaction with the second team, and you make your case stronger. And for this reason, when you do this comparison, you also understand that, okay, those people who have money, maybe it's it's not only a case when they really need this money, when they really are in for it, and maybe poor people, they need them more. And you as a government also analyze this thing, because the thing I wanted to hear in these debates as a mechanism was the analysis of people. Because when you say mostly about a better place to live or stable economy, I don't really get how people react to it. Because a stable economy is good for people, but still I need to hear how it impacts them. Because when I hear that people are in trouble and they can't get to work, I don't really understand what kind of trouble it can be, or how this money can solve this problem. And when you analyze from A to B, why it's working, this why taking this decision, which is promoted in motion, really works, really helps, or gives really harms in case of opposition, you can really work with these debates. You can make them even better than it is now. Okay, it seems to me that's all I wanted to say. Anyway, as usual, do you have any questions?
Do I get to give my own verdict?
You can say something if you want to.
All right, so yeah, my verdict was also that the government won today. What I can give you guys, what feedback I can give you guys is that perhaps you should give more detail towards your points, because I had to make a lot of assumptions, like Viola said. So it was mentioned that the youth has a lot of troubles. It was along those lines, and it would really help if I were to find out what kind of troubles they were, just in case, I do not have that much info about the youth or what troubles they're going with at the moment, generational gaps and stuff like that. So it would really help your point as well, because then you'd be it would weigh more, and that's it for the government. For the opposition, uh, perhaps you could interact a little bit more. You could write down, like Vila said, you could write down whatever the one side said, and try and talk about how that is not going to work. Just stuff like that. Yeah, that's how you can make it better. That's how what I felt like you could do to make it better. That's it.
Any questions about it?
I guess not.
No.
Wait, I have a question.
Okay.
About the details. To what extent do we need to give the details about our arguments or our speeches? Do we need to go very deeply into like very detaily speeches, or just
Yeah. Let
we
me explain.
can? Okay.
In case you're opening government in this game, Oscar gets the thing with Trainee. I mean, Oscar comes as first speaker. He explains what's proportion, what is disproportion, and your basic ideas about equality and how it's connected to real world. But still, I have questions. Question regarding to what's the problem, and I have a lot of questions regarding why is it a problem, why people suffer, and why it's really needed to do it. Because in case opposition really has stronger arguments than it is now, you don't really explain it. Because even when Gurlal is the first speaker of opposition, he says about harms. And from that moment, I understand, okay, maybe harms really exist, and I have some more reasons not to get this motion because it harms people. And on the second speech, I also understand. Okay, what I wanted to hear in this debate as well is what explanation of harms and analysis of actors. For actors, I mean poor people, uh, rich people, also government. You have to analyze whereas it's good or bad, good in your case, uh, for all of the people, for government as well, because it has some harms as well. Because when you understand this question and you analyze this, you analyze not only it will be better or people will be happier. Uh, I don't really get it. But when you explain that all people, all groups of people, all social classes will be satisfied with the things you do, uh, it can make the debate even better. Okay, so interaction, actors, harms, and that's it for today. I mean, you can do these three things and your relevance. Okay, relevance as well, because when I heard the second speech and it was still like a theory of socialism, but not really a connection to debate, I started to doubt. Whereas, is it relevant to these debates? Is it really socialism we talk about? Because when you have this question of okay, how motion is sounds first. Just let me. This house would radically tax the rich and give all citizens a basic income without a requirement to work. First of all, on the first speeches from both sides, I would like to hear like what is the basic income and how it influences people. But still, when on the second speech, it's also a problem because I don't really get how socialism is connected to this motion. Because I can get the situation of disproportion. Still, I don't understand harm of disproportion because they don't mention it. But when you explain how socialism works with basic income, and you don't really talk that nobody had tried it, because it's not a reason to try it because it may have harms, and opposition, I will bet you, will say it about it. Will say, okay, we will tell you about it because it's a very obvious argument and they can easily break them. And when you have different arguments, when you build your case, think whereas it's easy to break it because you have to provide strong arguments, and that's the point.